Hello, everyone. This is Panda here yet again with Behind the Wheel. Thank you so much for joining us. I got here with me Miss Crystal, and we are doing an episode called "Dealing with the Aftermath of Suicide." And we got some really interesting experience, strength, and hope for you, and hopefully it might help somebody. So yeah, once again, I'm Panda, aka Jess, and unfortunately, um, suicide is definitely not something that is like new to me. Today, actually, a friend of mine was being celebrated out in Richmond, Virginia. About 2 weeks ago, he unfortunately did take his life. And throughout like the last 10 years or so, it's really sad to say that I've lost a lot of friends, and not only that, I mean, I myself I've had suicidal ideations before. I've also attempted, and luckily, I have not, succeeded in that. And it's never easy, And because it is Suicide Prevention Month, I really do feel it necessary to actually talk about um, what it's like, what it feels like to be left behind, even to be a friend, to be a sister, to be a mother, to be, what it feels like. And it really just needs to be talked about. I mean, if you're out there and you're dealing with depression and you feel it necessary. I mean, first and foremost, anyone's triggered by this, please, please, please turn it off if you need to, but also get help. Do not be scared to reach out, call 988 or call 911 and get yourself some help because your life is super important. You deserve a chance to live, and please don't make any permanent decisions for a temporary problem. So, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to my awesome friend Crystal, who decided she wanted to come on here and talk with me about this. Crystal, it's so awesome to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you again.
You're welcome. So let's see. So my daughter, I had her when I was, I got pregnant when I was 16, and I was in 11th grade, and I had her when I was 17. So I was close to having an abortion, but I started feeling her moving around inside of me, and I just, excuse me, I couldn't do that. After that, it was just a thing that I knew that she was my baby and she was coming into this world and she was going to be my baby. And, she was with me at graduation and she was with me um, after that. Um, Whenever she was 5 years old, I was going through a divorce and my husband was threatening to take them from me and skip the country and take them to the Philippines. And he was looking at life in prison. And so it was quite possible for him to do that at the time. And I wasn't taking the chance of that happening. And so I sent my kids to live with my parents in Hawaii until I could save the money to get there. And when we went to the airport that day, he ran on the plane and was crying and, hugging them like cuz he really loved his kids no matter what faults he had. He did love his kids. And so we left and or they left, and then I had to go through the divorce proceeding, and so I moved from Charleston to Myrtle Beach, and this is where I, made money. And I ended up going to Hawaii, but and I lived there um for a while, but it got to be where I didn't want to live with my parents anymore, and living on my own was super expensive, and so I decided to bring them back to Myrtle Beach. But my mom wouldn't let me bring them back. She said no. And She said no, which I was pissed in the beginning. I was pissed because they're my kids, right? But I had to give her temporary custody because of the military situation. In order for her to have them over there and for them to have medical insurance, she had to have temporary custody because they lived on base. So it was a big ordeal. She told me, no, you can't have them. And so I came back without them. And she thought that I would just let it go, and I would stay over here, and just that I just wanted to be young and party, and that she would be able to have my kids. And I wasn't living, I wasn't going to let that happen. And so I came back and I got a place to live immediately. I got my old job back. I got a lawyer, and within 6 months, she brought them back to me. She had to, by law, bring them back. And so,
Yeah.
it wasn't the perfect situation. I was a waitress or a bartender their whole life, so I worked at night. And my ex, he worked during the day, so he pretty much took care of them at night. He did dinners. He was home with them during the weekend. I missed a lot of that, you know what I mean, because I was out working and making sure that they could live in the same house throughout their entire school life, you know what I mean. But at the same time, during that time, like, we were drinking, we were doing drugs. We didn't think it was a big deal. Like, they were seeing a lot more than they needed to be seeing.
Yeah.
And not even thinking at the time, like, what is this doing to them, right? And
Yeah.
so fast forward to high school, her high school years, she came out and told me that she was gay in the 11th grade. And I didn't chastise her for that. Like, I told her that was her choice. I just didn't want her going to school with hickeys on her neck, like, no matter whether she was straight or gay. Like,
Yeah.
there's a line we're going to draw, and you're not going to go to school and let people think that you're some kind of, hoe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl, like, we're not having all that. And so,
Mm.
the girlfriend went away to college, and Michaela was still a senior, and the girl ended up meeting a boy and broke her heart. And so
Oh man.
in the meantime, she met friends that were playing lacrosse, and they started taking her to church, and she got saved and she was baptized. And um she ended up going to a Christian college, and on her own, like, without I wasn't going to church, I wasn't doing any of that. Like, I was still living my bartender party lifestyle, doing my thing. And the kids, she was more of an adult than me, honestly, at the time. And she had her head on her shoulders. She was very passionate about paintball from the time she was 12 years old. And um that carried into adulthood. I mean, she ended up being a professional paintball player, and she was actually chosen to be on the USA team
Wow.
the day before she died. And actually, if you see behind me, that was her
Oh, you
jersey,
got all her stuff. Wow, that is awesome.
and
Did you
all
tell
of
me that
her
her whole team like signed
awards.
it, right?
I'm sorry.
You said her whole team signed it, right?
Yeah, their entire team signed it. They went to Paris and they won gold. But in
Wow.
September, after Michaela died,
Dang.
but she won a lot of awards, playing paintball all over the country and all over the world. And
Yeah.
there so she was going to school to be a pharmacist.
Mhm.
And in the meantime, she started dating a girl, and she was a type of person that when she fell for somebody, it was all in, you know what I mean? And all or
Guilty.
all or nothing. And there was no, I'm leaving you. There's none of that. Like, it was,
Mhm.
if you leave me, I'm gonna kill myself. And that's
Oh
how
wow.
she was. Like, it was that intense. And most of her relationships that were, someone that she's really fell for. Except the first one, like, she dropped her like a bad habit. And was like, sorry, but you're never seeing me again. You know what I mean? But with Ashley, she wasn't like that. She stayed with her for 4 years. Ashley was a heroin addict, and
Mm.
eventually she broke into the bar that I worked at and got caught, went to jail. Not my daughter, but her girlfriend,
Wow.
and got put in drug court. And she failed drug court, ended up going to prison. In the meantime, she gotten out of the real regular jail and brought a girl home with her and told Michaela she had to move into another room. And so, because the other girl would use heroin with her.
Wow.
And so during that time, I was trying to get her to come and live with me, and she wouldn't. She loved that girl so much. She just wanted to stay there. And she was a pharmacy tech. She had 18 months away from becoming a pharmacy. She's doing super well. And all of a sudden she asked these girls what it felt like. She wanted to know what they were so addicted to. And she wanted to try. She wanted them to shoot her up so that she knew what they were so addicted to. If you're going to throw away our whole relationship, our 7-year relationship, I want to know why
Mm.
this makes you feel that way.
Wow.
And so she tried it, and immediately she was off to the races, and she was addicted. And then she started shooting up meth as well and smoking crack. And, you know, it was, I didn't know any of this. Like, I thought she was still going to school. I thought she's doing well. She's avoiding me like the plague, but I thought she's just busy. Everything's all good.
Mm.
And so then we had to go to a family reunion, and I asked her if she would drive for me because I have anxiety driving on the interstate with big trucks.
Hey.
And so um she said yeah, so I went to pick her up, and she took her like 2 hours to get ready to walk out the door because she's all messed up. And I'm like,
Mm.
what's happening here? But she drove, and like we get there, and um she was fine the first night. The second night we went to the reunion. In the middle of the reunion, she goes to my car. um a little bit later, I go to the car. I notice an empty baggie in the seat. I'm like, what the hell? Then she's ready to leave because she's sick. So we go to my cousin's house, and my cousin gives her some kratom, and still hadn't told me what's going on. But then later, after she wants to sleep, he's like, she's on heroin. That's what's happening. She's sick. She's withdrawing from heroin.
Yeah.
The next day, I found a spoon in her bag, and, looking for a lighter. I'm looking for a lighter, find a spoon in her bag, like burn it up, and
Mm.
realized that my daughter, my smart daughter, that's always been the most precious kid, that's never done anything wrong in her life, that was more responsible than God, is a heroin addict and a meth addict, and she's shooting up, and I don't know what to do. And so I confronted her after I called my ex-husband. He had just gotten out of prison. He spent 12 years in prison. That was her dad. And I said, I need you to come here to Myrtle Beach, and I need you to tell me if this is true, if she's on heroin. And so he came, and he looked her up, and he found her, and he just basically took her arms and said, how long have you been shooting heroin? And of course, she started crying because she couldn't lie to him. And she broke down, and she said almost 2 years. And then I knew why she was avoiding me like the plague. And of course, she begged him not to tell me. And as soon as he left her, she did. He did. So I spent the next probably a year and a half trying to get her into rehab. And there's no place in South Carolina for that. Like, we don't have rehabs that are available just for anyone to go to. If you go to rehab here, it's going to cost you $30,000 or more, or at
I can
least
imagine. That's
over
crazy.
five.
What?
It is so expensive. There's no public programs. There are some faith-based programs, but they're hard to get into because they're few and far between.
Yeah.
And you have to be detoxed first in order to go to any of those places. And so you have to pay for the detox, and that's like $5,000. And so, there are a couple places that will do it. And I had a mentor that taught me how to groom dogs, and she was an addict, and she was going to Faces and Voices of Recovery favor meetings, and she was also goes to NA. And I immediately just called her, and I was like, what do I do? Like, I'm crying. I'm like, what do I do? And she sat me down and she said, Crystal, we have to do something about this because there are 170 people that died in Horry County last year from a heroin overdose. People are dying left and right. And if you don't get her off of this, you're going to lose her. So I started taking her to meetings, and I introduced her to a doctor and got her on Suboxone, which she was just trading the Suboxone for heroin. So we went through all of that. And like, she had tried the methadone clinic for months before I found out, but they like kicked her out because she had a paintball tournament in Texas and she missed a day. And so of course she had to have like $400 to get back in, and she didn't have that. So she went back to the street to get heroin, because they wouldn't let her back in the clinic without that much money.
Hmm.
And so finally I get in touch with this girl who was an advocate for the Jake Kensingdorf Foundation. A friend of mine that I met in favor introduced me to her over the phone, and the lady was from Cleveland, Ohio. She was maybe a couple years older than Michaela, not many. And she had came here to Sumter and got clean. So she's working for this foundation, and she gets Michaela a grant to go to Cleveland to go to the Edna House for free. I just need to get her detoxed first. So I get
Hmm.
in touch with the Charleston Center, and that's a detox place. And we get her down there. She goes through detox. I get her a plane ticket to go to Cleveland, and I have to chase her from the airport 5 times. She tries to leave and run.
Really? Dang.
Yeah, she was like, "What? I'm not doing it." And then, I would get her and talk her into it. Well, we get into the line, and while we're in the security line, she sees a kid that she played paintball with, and he's
Mm.
on his way to a paintball tournament. And he goes, "Where are you going to play at, Michaela?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm not going to play. I'm going to rehab." And he gave her the biggest hug. And he was like, "Thank you so much. I'm so happy for you." He was like, "Now go out there and get better so I can shoot the shit out of you on the paintball field." You know what I mean? And I was like,
Right.
see, that caught her through the airport line and got her on that plane to get there.
There you
Well, she ended up going through 6 rehabs. She kept getting kicked out for having a relationship with another girl. Um, at the place. And look, she had had 2 girlfriends before she went to Cleveland. By the time
Player,
she left
player.
there, it was like, what? She was the biggest player on the planet, but whatever. Like, finally she left one night, a rehab with a girl, and they stole one of the other girls' cars and they got caught. So they were pressed charges. She went to jail, and she called her sponsor, and her sponsor talked her into letting her come pick her up and turning herself in.
Hmm.
Not before she stole the girl's crack that they,
Oh
you
man.
know, had. So, she did that, and then she went to turn herself in at the jail. And
Okay.
they let her out on a probation thing, and they put her in. She went into a sober living house, and then she met another girl. And they ended up, after a month or two, getting kicked out of that sober living house for having a relationship. And so they
Yeah.
left together, and they were gone in Cleveland for over a month or two. And so I had no idea where she was. Like, but I know
Mm.
she's in Cleveland, which is one of the top places in the world that people are dying, from
It's
fentanyl.
crazy. Mm.
So I'm not sleeping. My husband's like not knowing what to do with me. My business partner doesn't know what to do with me. I'm tripping. All I want is to find my child. I just want her to get
Yeah.
better. And She actually showed up for her drug test for her probation, and they
Wow.
gave her. Well, let me tell you a story. So, I, my husband's a surfer, and at the time he was surfing contest, and we were on the way to Polly's Island. We
Hmm.
stopped to get gas, and I went in, and I hadn't slept all night because I've been crying all night. Like, where's my baby? Is she alive?
Yeah.
And I walk in, and the lady at the counter, she's like a Gullah Geechee lady in her 70s. And she was like, "Honey, are you okay? Like, you just don't look good." And I was like, "No, ma'am." I start bawling. And I'm like, "No, ma'am, I am not okay. My daughter is missing and she's on heroin and I don't know what to do." And she said, "Can I pray with you?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I gave her my hands and she said a prayer. And I don't remember what this woman said, but what I do remember is her looking at me in my eyes afterwards. And I can promise you that I saw Jesus in this woman's eyes. And she said to
Yeah.
me, "You don't need to worry about your daughter now because God's got her." And so I left that place and I got in the car. And my husband said, "You okay?" Because I was crying. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I get there at the beach and it's sun's coming up. And I walk down to the beach. They're setting up the scaffold for the contest. And I just said to God, like, you got to do something about this. Like, I can't do this. I'm giving her to you right now. You have to fix her. And if you can't
Yeah.
fix her, you need to take her back because I cannot let her live. I can't watch her live like this
Wow.
anymore. Like, this is killing me. I can't watch her. I can't do this anymore. And I looked down between my
Hmm.
feet and there were two shark's teeth, which she always found them. I never did. And I look up and there's two dolphins going by and I just feel this tremendous peace come about me. And I went back and I sat in my beach chair and the rest of the day I didn't think about her at all. And 2 weeks later she got arrested when she went to her probation officer and he gave her a drug test and she failed and they put her in jail. And so now she can't get out.
Yeah.
She's got to sit there till her court date, which is almost 4 months. And so
Hmm.
mama can't even help her. I can't even get her out if I want to.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I slept better that night and the next four
I
months
bet
than
you
I have
did.
ever slept in the last 4 years. So,
I bet you
um,
did.
so they went to court finally. I can't even go up there to go to court. Like, I couldn't even afford to go there to go to court with her. Like, she's doing all this on her own. And
Wow.
they gave her drug rehab. So they sent her to Matt Talbot in Cleveland. And she stayed there for 4 months. And she didn't use after that when she got out of jail. She didn't use anymore. She started playing paintball again, co-ed,
Good.
and then they started the WNXL, which is women's NXL it's the version of NXL, but it's women's, you know, and it's
Okay.
professional. So she started playing professional paintball with them all over the country. And she was doing really good. She was a manager at Chipotle and she got a girlfriend. They were really in love and she had a daughter and they were doing really well for a long time.
Hmm.
And then she got invited to go to France to play, one of 8 women in the United States. And
Wow.
um but 2 weeks before that, and I didn't know this, 2 weeks before that her girlfriend had broke up with her on their anniversary and they had been arguing over little shit, but mainly cat. The fact that the girl got a new cat and wouldn't clean the litter box out.
Wow.
And Michaela threw something at the TV in an argument. It broke the TV. Like, it was just a stupid argument. And that day, they were supposed to go somewhere to celebrate their anniversary. And the girl was in the shower, and Michaela said, "Do you still want to marry me?" They had gotten engaged at Red Rocks at the Rainbow Kitten surprise concert. And she said no. And then they got out the shower and the girl broke up with her. And So for 2 weeks, I didn't know this, but I called her one day and I was trying to talk to her, and she was just being super standoffish. Like, everything I said to her, I had sent her daughter like two big old boxes of Barbies that were Michaela's when she was a kid that had never been opened out of the box. And I sent them to Maeve, and I'm like, did Maeve get the Barbies? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, does she like them? She's like, I don't know. Like, it's no big deal. And I'm like, Michaela, are you okay? She goes, I don't know if she likes them. Who cares? It doesn't matter anyway. And I was just like, whoa, something's wrong here. But she wouldn't open up to me. And then, like 2 weeks later, her girlfriend sent me a message at 1 a.m. and said that she was trying to break up with Michaela and that Michaela was trying to end her life. And I didn't get the message that night because I was asleep, probably passed out, drunk. I don't know. And the next day, I left my phone at home when I went to work. So I didn't, just so happened that at lunchtime, I decided I was coming home to get my phone. Well, when I did, I saw the message on the phone. So I was freaked out. Like, I'm in South Carolina. She's in Cleveland. What the fuck am I going to do? You know?
Hmm.
So I start calling her. She's not answering. I'm calling Megan. She's not answering. And finally, like an hour later, Michaela calls me back and she's outside of her work and she's taking a break. And she's telling me that she wants to die and that she's not. I'm telling her why she doesn't want to, and I'm giving her all this, information and advice and all these things, and everything I say, she had to come back for every single thing I said to her. Everything. And she said all people are fake, nobody's real anymore. Nobody's a good person. Everybody's out only for themselves. Everyone's selfish. Um Everyone lies. Like, why should I be on this planet? I do nothing but love people. I give people a second chances. I do things that they need. I love them. Why can't someone love me back? Like, why won't someone fight for me? Like, I don't understand. Like, I
Yeah.
fight for people that I love. Why do they not fight for me? Why are they so just up in a hurry to leave me when things go bad? And I didn't know what to say except for that I've been there before because I've attempted twice in my life. When I was a kid, 15 years old, I tried to shoot myself and the gun was on safety, thank God, and it scared me, so I dropped it. And then again, when I was 19 years old, I took 97 sleeping pills, and I had to have
Dang, Crystal.
my stomach pumped. Luckily, my first husband had got up to use the bathroom and figured out what happened and called my mother. He didn't call the ambulance. He didn't wake his own mother up. He called my mother and told her to come take me to the hospital and that, oh, by the way, I puked on the floor, that she should clean that shit up before I left.
Hmm.
But I recognized then in that time in my life that no other person is worth me losing my life for, no matter how unhappy I am, that no other person can make me happy. I have to do it myself. And I was trying to explain that to that Michaela that day. I talked to her for 8 hours on the phone that day, the day before she did this.
Hmm.
And but on my way home, our phone conversation started at work. On my way home, I stopped at the liquor store and I bought like 10 fireball shots, double ones.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting here talking to her most of the night. I talked to her till almost midnight. But I was drinking the whole time. And so honestly, I can't remember everything that we talked about. I remember some of the things. I remember how much pain she was in and that she didn't want to lose Megan, that she didn't want to lose her daughter. The next day I called her at 8:30 in the morning. We talked on the phone until 12:30 p.m. She was walking. I told her to go outside and get some sunshine. Um, to go get some food, to come back and take a shower because she was supposed to go to work. But in the meantime, I talked to her the whole way. She walked 2.5 miles to this restaurant that her and Megan were supposed to go to on their anniversary that 2 weeks ago. I didn't realize that's where she was going. And the only reason we know that is through Google Timeline, right? Where she actually went that day. When she got there, the whole day we talked about Hope, and I was begging her to come home for Mother's Day. Mother's Day was that weekend. This was 4 days before Wednesday, 5 days before Mother's Day. And I was begging her just to come home and let me and my mama love on her, just if you don't want to stay, you don't have to. You can go back, but just let me love on you for a minute, or I'll come up there. I'll buy a plane ticket tomorrow. We were talking about buying her new TV so that when Megan came back, the TV wouldn't be busted, and that everything, would look normal and she wouldn't think about the fight they had been in. So I told her I'd buy her a TV, and I'm looking up the TVs and I'm like, is this one okay? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. It really doesn't matter anyway. That's the last message I got from her. It really doesn't matter anyway. But when she got to that restaurant, I asked her, I said, do you want to keep talking to me, or do you want me to let you go eat? And she said, well, Mama, it's pretty loud in here, so let me call you when I'm done. I said, okay, call me when you're walking home and I'll talk to you on the way. I said, I'm going to go groom this dog right now, but it doesn't matter. I'll stop as soon as you call me. Well, she didn't call back right away, but she sent me a text and she said, this guy just stopped on my way and asked me for my phone number when I was walking back. And I started laughing and I said, see, that's God right there. You know what I mean? There is hope. Like, she's not the only person in the world,
Yeah.
And she said, I can't, Mama. And I said, I know, baby, but one day maybe you can. And then we started talking about the TV later on, but this was like an hour or so later, about the TV. She never called me back. And I don't know why I didn't call her back. I thought she was maybe getting ready for work or taking her shower, or maybe because she had to be there at 3 and this was like 1 o'clock. I'm thinking maybe Megan called her, maybe they're talking. And about 3 o'clock, I started calling her and she wasn't answering. And, but at the same time, I'm just thinking that, and then like almost 4, it wasn't even quite 4. I told I told my assistant, I said, something's wrong with her. Something's wrong with her. She's not answering the phone. Something's wrong with her.
You just knew.
Yeah. So I left work and I drove home. And when I got home that weekend, my husband and I had tickets to go to see the race in Darlington. And so he was telling me to put them on my Apple Wallet so we wouldn't have to worry about that when we got up there. It would just be right there and I could, get it right in through my phone. And so I hate doing shit like that. It gets on my nerves. I hate it's tedious computer shit. I don't like it, and I was having a hard time with it. And at the time, my little dog I just walked in the door. So she's like, crying, like won't stop. She will not stop crying. And I just yelled at her and I'm like, Michaela, shut the fuck up. And that's my daughter's name, not my dog's name.
Yeah.
And I was like, all of a sudden, I just looked at my husband and I said, something is wrong with Michaela. Something is wrong with her. And he said, baby, she's okay. Don't worry about it. She's all right.
I'm getting chills right
So
now.
we started talking and he said, I need to run to Myrtle Beach. And I said, well, I'm going to run to the grocery store while you go to Myrtle Beach. He said, okay, I'm going to take a shower first. And I went ahead and left. And I called my friend Stevie and I was telling him that what had been going on all day. Like, I'd been getting these calls, and now she wasn't answering the phone, and I was worried about her, you know. And I get to the grocery store, and I'm in the wrap aisle, like, because we were going to have steak wraps that night. And my husband beeped in, and I told my friend, I said, hold on a minute. I said, he might want something else. And he's trying to tell me since I'm at the grocery store. So let me see, answer this phone. And so I answered, and he says, just come home. Put all that stuff down and come home. And I kept saying, why? I'm right here. I only have a couple things to grab. Like, why do you want me to come home? He said, Crystal, and he wasn't trying to tell me, but I wouldn't shut up. And so he finally said, the police are here. He said, the police are here. And when he said the police are here, I started screaming. And I just dropped everything I had in my hand. And I ran out the store. And somehow he hung up, and my phone was automatically back where I was on the phone with Stevie. And Stevie's been my best friend since my kids were like 4 years old, We met one Halloween, and he came and helped me take him trick-or-treating. And I said, Stevie, she's gone. She did it. She's gone. And we talked for a second, and I was trying really hard to get home. And I couldn't get home. Nobody would move the fuck out of my way. Everybody was in my way. The light was red. The people won't move. There was traffic. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock, So I'm hauling ass to get to my house, and I turn down the road that goes to my neighbor, and I'm pulling in my neighborhood. And I see like 6 cops, and they're all leaving my neighborhood. I'm like, well, maybe it's something else. Maybe they were there for something else. I thought, I didn't know why, but, having a little hope there. And I get to my house, and I pull up, and I about ran the neighborhood over the neighbor over, because they were like 5 people on golf carts and other people in the middle of the road just talking. And I guess because I don't know why, but I'm hauling us up there, and the guy was like, God damn, like you. And I just jumped out the car and went like that and ran to my house. Like, where's my husband? Where's the police? Like, what's going on? And I ran in the house, and he just said, I'm like, what happened? What's happening? And he said, baby, she's gone. And I said, how? What happened? And he said, I don't know. He said, the medical examiner is supposed to call you in a little bit once they finish doing the investigation. So I'm trying to call Megan this whole time, and she's not answering. And I'm like, what the fuck? Why isn't she answering me? So I go outside, and I'm literally just, well, first I beat the fuck out of my husband. And I'm screaming, and I've made this noise that I don't know any other time that's ever came out of my body, my life. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't breathe. And I walk outside, and I'm literally just screaming. And my neighbor came from across the street, and she just wrapped her arms around me, and she's like, are you okay? What happened? And I told her My daughter killed herself. She was 31 years old. She was about to go play paintball for France for a world championship. She was smart. She was beautiful. And she's dead. She's dead. I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't understand that. That was incomprehensible to me. And so she went and she found a neighbor that found me a Xanax. And I didn't call my son. My ex-husband's father called my son. And my nephew just so happened to be in town. And they both came. And me and my son just sort of broke down together. I talked to my mother, and after that, it's like nonstop phone calls. You know what I mean? It's nonstop phone calls for days, and I don't know what to think. I can't breathe. I don't understand. I'm screaming at God. I'm screaming at everybody. I don't want to talk to anyone, but everybody I have to talk to. So my family came the next day. My brother came from North Carolina, my dad and my stepmom and my mother and my daughter's, dad and family and brother and sister all came to be with me. My friends, neighbors that I had never met before were coming to bring me food and stuff. And I had talked to my cousin on the phone, and he said, Crystal, you're going to feel her in every card, in every hug, in every gift someone brings you, in every letter that you get, in every flower that you get, in every conversation that you have with someone. You're going to feel her. She's talking to you. And 5 minutes later, we got off the phone. My husband comes walking up, and he said, here's this bag. Neighbor down the street bought it for you. I open up the bag, and it's a dang big ass box of honey buns from Costco. And when I tell you that honey buns was my daughter's favorite thing on the whole planet, I'm like, what the fuck? I don't eat honey buns. And I used to tell her, all right, Michaela, you keep eating them honey buns, and you're just gonna be as big as my Aunt Marlene. And she would go, num 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 num. They're so good. And I just started laughing, like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And about 3 hours later, one of my clients from work brought me a strawberry cake. And I made her a strawberry cake every year on her birthday. This lady didn't know that.
Oh, wow.
She didn't know that. And this just kept going over and over and over again. I was yelling at the birds, the cardinals. I couldn't sit inside my house because I couldn't breathe. I sat outside. I happen to live on a creek. We have a lot of birds around here. They would not come in my yard. The cardinals would not come in my yard. And I'm yelling at them. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing all the way over there? I'm right here. Come and talk to me. Come and tell me why you did this. Tell me why you fucking left me. Why? Don't sit over there across the fucking creek. Come and look at me, bitch.
Yeah.
It took them a couple weeks. No, it was actually on Mother's Day. It was a couple weeks. On Mother's Day, I was writing something on Facebook about I wasn't dishonest. I told the truth about her. There's one thing about my daughter, and that was that she was honest no matter what. She was
Hmm.
an honest person. I had said that what she did, and somebody said that I shouldn't have said that. And I went
What?
on there and I said, I don't know who you think you are, but if I can save one person by telling her story, that's what I'm going to do. Because she knows people all over the world from playing paintball. I had so many people reach out for me for all over the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of her paintball team came. You know, they don't live in this city, they live all over America, um, off the co ed teams and the girls' teams. And they came and they loved on me, you know. Um, and I told Michaela, see, there are good people in this world. There really are. Not all people are bad. And I'm going to tell you right now that her girlfriend loves her. She loved her then. They were just having a rough patch. She wasn't leaving forever. She was just trying to get away through the night so that they could calm the fuck down and quit fighting.
Yeah.
She wasn't going anywhere. Michaela didn't give her a chance to come back. It was a permanent solution to a temporary problem. But she told me a million times, she's not the reason I'm doing this, Mama. So I don't know why. Um, I wonder if it'll. Can you still see me?
It turns black.
Okay. I was actually going to read you her letter, but I have to look it up on my phone to do that.
Okay.
Um, but because unfortunately I don't have a copy of it here.
Hmm. Well, when you do get a copy, if you want to share that, we can also add it to, uh, you know, the Facebook page also too. Or I mean, if you don't want to post it, it's up to you. We can share it somehow.
Yeah. Um, on my tablet that's outside, I have my Gmail on it, and if I did that, I might be able to do it, but I don't have Gmail on the tablet that I have inside, unfortunately.
It's
And
okay. So
I don't think I saved it to my notes, but I can look real quick.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Crystal, that was a really like, man, that I can't even imagine what that even feels like. I mean, I know what it feels like to lose my best friend and a couple other really good friends. And I mean, I can't even imagine for a daughter, like that. That just I don't know, and it's it's not easy. It's tough to even talk about. Sometimes people can't even listen to this kind of thing because it's triggering, right?
I'll
And
tell you that it's really hard to go through the first couple of months. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't stay in the house because I couldn't breathe.
yeah,
I cried for 6 months every time I went to church, but I had to be there. That was my
hmm
only saving grace, was that I was there at church. And the sermon on Mother's Day was literally for me. I can tell you that. Um,
yeah,
and as I do go to a grief support group at church, and I have been for the last 2 years. That does help me. There are several other women there that, have lost their children and that have lost their children to suicide. Some have lost their children to fentanyl. I understand both sides. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I get it because I always had an intuition that I wasn't going to have her forever. And I
Yeah.
don't know why that is. I don't know. I don't know why I knew that, but I knew it. I knew that I wouldn't always have her and that I had to love her the best I could while I had her. And I didn't send her to Cleveland because I didn't want to be with her no more. I sent her to Cleveland to get clean so that she could live. I didn't think she would still come back in a body bag. This fentanyl and heroin epidemic in this country has got to be stopped. It has
It's
taken
crazy.
so many people, so many young people away from their families. Grandparents are literally raising 2-year-olds and they're in their
Yeah.
70s. You know,
I agree.
it's
I
doing
agree. Or
so much to our country, but I'll tell you that when she died, I was not sober. And I was an alcoholic for 37 years, but after she died, it became 4,000 times worse. And on her birthday, December 6th, 2023, I had a come to Jesus moment with my higher power and my God, whom I do call Jesus. And I begged him to let me die. I begged him to take me. I did not want to be here anymore. I couldn't function during the day. I couldn't talk about her. I couldn't look at her pictures. I couldn't live. I just couldn't. You know what I mean? I really wanted to die. There was a rope outside of my tree that my dogs played with. There was a rope at my shop that my dogs played with. And every day I thought about doing the exact same thing. But I have a son. And I was praying to God that he would bring him a wife and a baby so that I would have some kind of joy. If you're not going to take me, at least let my son have a baby so I can have some joy in this planet. Or let him decide that he wants to be sweet, because he's 29, he's got his own shit going on, you know, children. But, and what I kept hearing, Jess, was none of these prayers are ever going to come true if you keep drinking. None of them
mm,
are ever going to come true if you keep drinking. So
interesting.
I was literally sober at that moment. At that moment, I was completely sober.
Wow.
And I woke up the next day and I told my husband, I said, I'm never drinking again. And he said, yeah, right. You're going to be drunk by 4 o'clock. And I
Hmm.
said, no, I'm not. And
And look
he
at you go.
left about 3 weeks later to go to Nicaragua to go surfing. And I found AA on Zoom through a high school friend of mine that stole my
Wow.
boyfriend one time. Imagine that. She introduced me to AA on Zoom. And
That's awesome.
so I started going to WIM meetings, which is Women's International Meetings, if no one knows about that. It's all women from all over the world and 24 hours a day meeting. And I went on that meeting and I just started listening. I didn't
Hmm.
share, I didn't turn my camera on for for the longest time. I just listened.
Yeah.
And guess what? I heard other people on there that had lost their children and they were sober. I heard other people that had lost their children to suicide and they were sober too.
Hmm.
And I thought, fuck, well, maybe if they can do that shit, I can do it too. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know what? And I kept going back every day, every day, 24 hours a day. I would have WIM radio, is what I called it, back on in the background. And that's what I would listen to keep my head out of alcohol one day at a time. I would say the prayers in the morning. I would say the prayers in the afternoon. If and when I would get pissed off at people, I would say the sick man's prayer. If I would get pissed off at God, I would say the set aside prayer. I said the
Yeah.
night prayer. I said the Lord's prayer. I said every prayer I could think of. And then I found the 1010 meeting. And then all of them, Michael, Melvin, Phil, a few other people that were there at the time, BLT. Kat. Kat was kind of new at the time. She had less time than I did, but she's my sponsor. You know what I mean? Because she got this program because her sponsor first was BLT, and he taught her, and I learned from them, and I just kept going back every single night. And they took me through the book. They took me through the steps, and they made me understand what my part was in all of the shit that had gone on my entire life. You know what I mean? And they made me understand that I didn't have to live like that anymore. That my son and my future grandchildren, if he ever starts cooperating with me, because the little shit won't even get a girlfriend. Um, he's 29 years old. What the fuck? Sorry about my bad language, but I mean, this is just the way I talk. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My daddy was a sailor,
Curse
and
all the time.
I can't help it. But he's not cooperating with my grandchild thing. But when and
Yeah.
if he ever does, guess what? I'm not going to be a
What's-
drunk grandma.
There you go. That's awesome. Well,
I miss
real
my
quick,
daughter every
Crystal.
day.
I bet. I bet she sounds. She
She
definitely
was a
sounds like a really awesome.
badass little girl.
I,
She was
That's what it sounds
a
like. That's what I was gonna say.
badass girl. And
So I really quick wanted to ask you, not to cut you off, because we got like probably about 4 minutes until I have to hop off here. But I wanted to ask you. So if you were to speak to people that are maybe going through depression right now, I feel like their life like doesn't matter. Like they want to take their own life. What would you say to them?
don't do it. Tomorrow's going to come. The sunlight's coming out tomorrow. I want you to look for God's light. God is the light of the world, and he will lead you out of the darkness. And if you have to do that every second of every day, do it. Call a friend, call someone, call me. She could put my number in the chat. I don't care. Call me. I'll talk to you. You know, I might not have a whole bunch
Great
of
person to talk
great
to, by the way.
words, but we can talk about peanut butter if you want to. I don't care. Like, just call
Heck yeah.
someone. Read a book,
Yeah.
go to the doctor, get some medicine if you need it. If you don't. My daughter started taking
Mhm.
Prozac 5 weeks before this happened. I don't know that the Prozac didn't just give her enough energy to come up with the idea to go through with it.
Right.
Because that's what
Mm,
my doctors have told me about that, is that it could have just given her enough energy to go through with it.
yeah.
So medicine isn't for everyone. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you are getting medicine and you're struggling on that medicine, please call your doctor and let them know.
Yeah.
Don't just say, "Oh, I'm not," you know. And listen, a relationship, someone else out there in the world is not worth your life. You are worth it. You have a purpose. You
You're
are
right.
loved by so many people that you don't even know love you. Like, I had thousands of
Mhm.
people reach out to me for my daughter. Thousands of people reach out to me and that loved her so much. And people love you that you don't even know love you. You've touched people that you don't even
True.
know you've touched. And God loves you,
Yeah.
and so do I. And so just remember that.
And I love
God loves
you.
you. I love
Yes.
you
Well,
too.
Crystal, thank you. I love you as well. Y'all, thank you guys so much. Man, that story really did touch my heart, and I have a really soft spot for that. And I mean, if you are struggling, like for real, please don't feel bad. Do not feel scared. You can reach out to someone. Your life is very important. We are glad that you exist. You have
Yes.
absolutely no idea what things can happen in the future. Do not give up. Pick up the phone and call somebody. With
And
that
don't
being
forget
said,
988 works.
what'd you say?
I said
What'd you say?
988.
988 works.
988. It
Call it.
works.
Yes. And with that being said, y'all, it has been another episode of Behind the Wheel. Thank you once again for showing up. Remember that life is a highway and it's filled with ups and turns and all that. So you can navigate behind the wheel and tune in next time for the next episode. Love you so much, Crystal. All right. So I'm gonna